to the Testmo AI test case generation release live stream stroke webinar. Thanks for joining us today. If you're joining us live, I am Simon Knight. I'm the Testmo product manager, and today we are going to walk through one of the most important additions to Testmo this year, our AI-powered test case generation feature, which is now available in beta. So this session isn't just about announcing a new feature, it's about showing how this capability fits into your testing workflows, right from requirements through test design, coverage and execution, all inside of Testmo, all supported by our new AI capabilities. So over the next hour, we're going to cover the agenda that you can see here on the right, focusing on why we built this new feature and what problems it's designed to solve, how AI test case generation kind of fits and works inside of Testmo, and I'll do a lot of that by way of a live end-to-end demo, and then we'll wrap up with some key takeaways, a sneak peek at the Testmo roadmap, and we'll try and make sure there's plenty of time for Q&A as well. So as we go through the webinar, please feel free to drop questions into the Q&A panel that is hopefully being displayed for you somewhere in the Zoom controls. And also, I believe my colleague who's supporting the webinar on the back end, Joel Gonzalez, will be posting a question that we'll look at a little bit later around what kind of AI features you feel like you would most benefit from in Testmo in future releases. So hopefully that'll be on your screens in due course as well, if it's not already. All right, so jumping into the content, then design goals and overview. So why test case generation? Well, excuse me, as you'll probably be aware, certainly I am, there's lots and lots of noise around AI at the moment, and you know, the same amount of noise I would guess in terms of AI in software testing, you know, how to test AI and how to use AI to accelerate and optimize your testing activities. So lots of features, lots of announcements, lots of noise. One criticism that we hear and you know agree with is that many AI tools feel a little bit disconnected from how testing actually works day to day. So in Testmo, our goal wasn't just to add AI features for their own sake. We wanted to help teams move faster in terms of getting from requirements to test coverage, reduce repetitive test design effort, keep traceability intact, and avoid needing to bounce between multiple tools just to kind of get visibility of all of those things. So Testmo already gives teams like a structured testing workflow, a model in which to approach testing activities with, going through requirements, test cases, execution, coverage and reporting, which, you know, if you're an existing Testmo user, you should be somewhat familiar with. And AI test case generation for Testmo fits inside of that existing model. It doesn't replace it. So what we've implemented in Testmo means that teams, instead of starting from a blank page, you will now be able to provide requirements as part of the test case generation workflow. Our AI will propose an initial set of test cases. It will allow you to review, refine, and guide the suggestions that it's providing you for test cases based on the requirements that you've entered. And then ultimately it will generate real test cases that live inside of your Testmo repository. And once all of that's done, you will be able to continue to run those tests, the generated test cases, as you normally would. You'll be able to analyze and report on the results from those test cases as you would do normally, and you'll have full traceability back to the original requirements, which is all kind of built into the workflow by default. So, you know, we had a few sort of non-negotiable principles that we kind of baked in to the AI feature from the outset. We wanted humans to stay in control throughout the entire process, with our AI suggesting test cases. However, you know, you are in complete control. You review all of the AI suggestions and you decide exactly what test cases get generated and added to your repository. Generated tests in Testmo are first-class citizens. They live in the Testmo repository, just like any other test cases. They can be edited, executed, and reported on like any other test case. And, you know, traceability matters. Our AI-generated test cases link directly back to the requirements they came from, enabling real coverage tracking. And finally, this is all part of a real workflow. It's not a standalone feature. So what's included in the current Testmo AI test case generation release? You can add your requirements using the sort of standard free text requirements input. You can suggest test cases. The AI will suggest test cases, and you're able to review and refine and respond to those and decide what suggestions make it through to the next step. Test cases are fully generated as part of the workflow, and you can ultimately store those things in your Testmo repository once you're happy with them. And as I've already mentioned, there is an automatic link created between the requirements and the test cases themselves. So this is the sort of foundation of what we've delivered. We hope to build on this foundation going forward, and I'll talk about that in a little while. Let's jump into the demonstration though, so you can see what that all looks like. So I'm going to switch my screen over. So here is my my hosted Testmo instance, and what I'm going to do is just walk through the full AI test case generation workflow end to end, so you can see what all that looks like. And I'm going to kind of take it step by step, so that you can see the process is, you know, predictable, reviewable, and get a sense of how it kind of fits into how you're already working inside of Testmo. So I've got a project that I've set up for the purpose here, a dummy sort of hotel booking platform that my development team is working on. And if I go into my repository, that's where the workflow begins, and it's where your generated test cases will ultimately live. And when I click on the generate beta button, that's going to open up my test case generation workflow. And the very first step in the workflow enables me to add in my requirements, as well as specify a few other bits and pieces that are important to select before we go into the workflow proper. So I want to select what kind of test case template I want to use, which template I want to use for the generated test cases, and how many test cases I want to generate, and importantly, where I want to save them. So focusing in on the folder selection just momentarily, I can either select an existing folder, or I can create a new one for the purpose. So I think in this case, I will, I will create a new folder, and I'll just go to some dummy data that I've set up for the purpose of performing this demonstration. So I'm going to test out a customer feedback system, and I'm going to create a folder for that purpose. So I'm going to create a folder called customer feedback system, in which I'm going to store my my generated test cases for this requirement. So let's just add that in there. And obviously this makes the organization of your generated test cases kind of intentional. So they end up in exactly the place that you've specified for them. If you don't enter a folder here, we will create a new one for you automatically. And obviously, if you want to use an existing folder, then you can do that as well. So what I'm also going to do is add in a requirement title. So I'm not forced to start from scratch each time I go through this process. I have the ability to enter a clean set of requirements as part of this workflow if I wish to do so. But I can also select previously used requirements from earlier generation workflows. And I can do that by clicking on that button, on this button here, reuse past requirements. And that'll open up a list of previous test case generation iterations that I've gone through already. So you can see that from a few days or so ago, I've been using the test case generation workflow to generate test cases for some of these requirements here, so security and encryption, hotel booking filters, etc. And when viewing those previous requirements, I can immediately see how many test cases they are already associated with. And I can actually click through directly to those test cases if I want to take a look at those. So clicking through from my requirements will take me directly to the test cases that were generated from that specific requirement. And I can also see, when they were actually created. So that obviously provides me with a useful sort of history of what's been going on here. And I can also reuse those requirements should I wish to do so. So I can just pull those directly into my generate cases view here. And if I want to reuse them and modify those requirements in order to generate further test cases, then that's certainly something that you're able to do. One of the important things to kind of call out on this view is the requirement for a requirement title. And that will be important not only in this view, so that you have a clear sense of what it was the requirement was about, but also ultimately when you generate the test cases, as I've previously mentioned, we have like automatic requirements traceability built in, which means that you will see those requirement references appear on your test cases in the same way that you'd expect it to in other places in Testmo. So giving you the ability to be able to sort of utilize the drop down in order to see what it is exactly that the test case was intended to cover. And you can also apply filters for the issues in the various places where you'd expect to be able to do so, including reporting, if that's something that you've got enabled on your Testmo instance. So just going back to the actual generation workflow itself, though. So let's get rid of this requirement that I've kind of pulled in here and go to my test data. So I'm gonna create some test cases associated with requirements for a customer feedback system. I've got a couple of requirements in here. And I'm going to pop those in there like so. Let's just tidy those up a little bit, get rid of the bold. So a fairly simple set of requirements for a customer feedback system. So the system should allow users to submit feedback via forms and surveys, categorize that feedback, respond within 24 hours. And there's some additional information around the requirements here, testing for response time on large feedback data sets, ensuring automated email responses and categorizing feedback correctly based on predefined categories. So, you know, there's a very basic set of requirements, and the additional information is intended to provide a steer as to what the sort of test coverage should look like. So these requirements can be as detailed as you wish. I would advocate for making them as detailed as possible. The more detail you're able to provide in your requirements, the better quality test cases you're going to get back from the AI system. You're also able to provide it with guidance in terms of how you would like the sort of test coverage for your requirements to look. I'd certainly encourage you to kind of experiment with how you describe your requirements here. But in the context of how you are kind of expected to work with this in Testmo, I'd encourage you also to consider this as a requirements prompt for the AI rather than a more sort of generalized prompt in the classical sort of chat GPT or Claude sense, because ultimately that's what we're kind of treating them as from a sort of test case workflow perspective. Is, you know, you have your requirements and those things are ultimately going to be covered by test cases. So if I click the generate cases button, that is going to send all of that information off to our AI. I've talked about templates, so we're going to get those back. Testmo is going to generate an initial set of suggested test cases here. So this is intentionally a kind of review and guidance phase. So this is not the final output. Once you've got these suggested test cases back, as it indicates here, you can select and edit which test cases you actually want to take through to the sort of final refine and add stage. So if I click on this button here, I can edit the test case at this stage, change the name, change the description, and this information will get fed back to our AI so that you can further sort of steer it as to what you want the final test case to look like. You can also delete the case entirely if you're not interested in some of the specific scenarios that you may have gotten back. So you may not be interested in how special characters are being handled at this stage, for example. So you could unselect this one. It won't get sent through to the final phase of the workflow, or you could just delete it entirely as you prefer. What I can't do at this stage is create entirely new test cases, because if the overall sort of direction of what you're getting back here is wrong, then probably the best thing to do is going to be to go back to the previous step, refine your requirements, make them a little bit clearer, provide some additional steer if necessary, and then regenerate those test cases based on having refined the requirements a little bit further. So, helping to kind of keep the process grounded in terms of the overarching intent. Once you are happy with these, however, you can proceed to the next stage, which is the sort of final generation and refinement. So at this point, instead of the sort of high level test cases that we got in the previous phase, you will get a fully fleshed out test case. In this case, we are using the test case text template. So it has the description steps, and it has all of the expected results for the test cases as well. So you can see there's a good level of detail there. If you wish to, you can make final changes to these test cases, changing the name to make sure that it's correctly formatted for how you expect your test cases to look in the context of your repository, for example. Making any changes to the description or the expected results that you may wish to. And then once you're happy with those the test cases that you've got back, you can click the Add Cases button, and that will add the finished test cases to your repository. It's possible that on occasion you may see an error message like this one indicating that one or more test cases failed to load correctly. Should that occur, you can retry generation of the failed cases by resubmitting them, and the AI backend will regenerate those test cases for you. Or if you're happy to ignore them, you can do so and just add the successful ones to your repository. On this occasion, in the interests of time, I'm just going to ignore the failed cases and add the finished ones to the repository. So I'm going to click the Add Cases button. And there we go. We can see I've got 25 AI generated test cases added to my customer feedback system folder, providing me with coverage for the requirements that I specified. And each of those test cases is tagged as an AI test case, so you can clearly see in the context of your repository which test cases have been generated by AI and which haven't. And as I mentioned earlier, they also include the requirement link indicated by the Testmo icon, so that you can see that this is an internal requirement link versus a link from an external system such as Jira or GitHub, if you have those things integrated with your instance as well. And again, this is why it's important to make sure you have a clear title for your requirements, so that you can see that in the drop down, as well as the description, and have a good sense of what it is that your test cases are covering. So having this traceability back to the original requirements also means that you can do things like filter for them, should you need to do so. So I can apply a filter here, for example, and you can filter those things as you would expect to do so. And as I mentioned, it also means that they show up, for example, in your requirements and traceability reports. So you've got your requirements count, 6 requirements in total currently, 100% coverage, and all of the test cases covering those things in your requirements coverage and traceability report. So it's all intended to kind of work end to end. Since test cases are explicitly linked back to your requirements, coverage isn't something that you need to infer. It's kind of visible through your Testmo dashboards, coverage views, and the requirements coverage and traceability report, as I'm showing here. And that connection is kind of what allows AI generated tests to fit cleanly into an end-to-end testing strategy inside of Testmo, going from requirements to test cases to then being able to execute those test cases and ultimately report on that testing in terms of your Testmo dashboards and reports. So probably you saw as well when I generated the test cases that there was an opportunity to provide feedback. So we want to understand from you where things are working well, or where maybe they're not working so well. So I encourage you to take a moment to provide us with feedback when you see that message appearing. I also want to point out from an administration and governance perspective that AI features in Testmo are switched on by default. However, you do have full control over the AI functionality. You can fully disable it from within the admin console if required. So they are enabled by default, as I mentioned in our January release notes, and also the February release notes as well. But you organizationally, as Testmo customers, are in full control over whether the AI functionality is enabled for your Testmo instances, both at the instance level, as I'm showing here. So you can disable AI for your Testmo instances should you wish to do so by toggling on or off AI features, and also at the user role level as well. So if you want to provide more granular permissions around AI test case generation, then you can do that at the role level by simply enabling or disabling AI generated cases. It's worth noting, just while I'm here, that since AI generated test cases are added directly to your repository, users also need to have add edit capabilities on cases and folders in addition to AI generated cases. So you need to have both of these things enabled in order to utilize AI generated cases. And that just ensures that AI assisted creation fits cleanly into Testmo's existing access models without introducing separate permission systems. Alrighty, so that's kind of the live demo portion. I'm going to go back to my slide deck and just start to kind of wrap things up a little bit with some key takeaways. So as I've sort of hopefully covered and demonstrated, AI test case generation is a kind of guided system. It's not something that is just automatic. You kind of go through the workflow and you have opportunities to guide, review, and refine the test cases that are being generated at each stage of the workflow. The process starts with requirements and ends with kind of real coverage of those requirements in terms of the test cases that are generated. You're able to trace those things directly back to the originating requirements from the test cases, from your Testmo dashboards, from your Testmo reports, making them fully traceable and reportable on, and ultimately sort of lending itself to an end-to-end testing model, and hopefully a virtuous cycle of requirements, test cases, execution, coverage and reporting, and iteration on those things as part of your sort of testing cycles. Alrighty, I've got a few more slides to kind of cover off, and I expect some of those slides will likely speak to the sort of questions that you'll have been posting in the chat. I see there's quite a number of them, and it's fair to say I don't expect to get through all 70 of them. Zhao, I've no doubt you're listening in the background, and if you've identified some that we haven't, that are particularly important to address, you'll let me know about those. I think one of the things that Zhao is already pointing out in the chat that we've got going on is lots of you don't have access to the AI yet. So as I was going to mention in this slide, it's kind of a complex rollout because of the integration with the sort of AI backend. So we are rolling out the features over a few weeks, and probably you would have seen that message if you check our changelog. So we have released the features, but currently only to around 60% of our customers. I think the exact number was something like 64% of Testmo instances. And the way that we're staging the release over the next couple of weeks is, dependent on the size of your Testmo instance in terms of the number of users. So, probably you can all appreciate, I imagine many, if not all of you on the call, have somewhat of an engineering background. So, in terms of risk management, we are rolling out the release to instances with smaller number of users, and we're gradually ramping up through medium and larger users over the next couple of weeks. So I'm waiting to kind of hear from my DevOps team as to their kind of risk assessment as to how we should proceed based on how we're seeing things are going with the existing instances that we've rolled it out to. Fair to say, I don't think we've seen any issues or any particular challenges with the rollout to date. So hopefully the rollout will occur faster than we originally envisaged. But if you haven't got access to the AI test case generation yet, please rest assured within a week or so, a couple of weeks max, you will. We will have I expect we will have rolled it out to all of our customers, probably by the end of the first week of March. So by the 8th of March, the feature should be rolled out to all of our customers. So thank you, Jal, who has posted another question that he's identified. What types of templates can be used? So lots of you are asking about test case steps and Gherkin. So probably the easiest thing is just for me to kind of demonstrate that. So if I go back into my repository, let's just reuse my customer feedback requirement here. So I've got 3 template types that I've got set up currently in my Testmo instance: test case text, steps, both of which were available out of the box for a long time. Case BDD, which is a slightly newer addition to our sort of out of the box list of test case templates. And these are what I would describe as the sort of canonical templates that we expect to support for our test case generations. So you can either generate test cases in text format or steps format or BDD format. All of these things are supported. If you are using custom templates or entirely new templates that you have created yourselves, so long as they contain the necessary fields that sort of meet these canonical formats, then you will be able to use them in your test case generation workflow. Exactly what that means in terms of the fields and how they map to these kind of canonical templates, as I'm referring to them, that's something that will be covered or is already covered in our documentation. We added a video with some further explanation around that to that documentation just earlier today. So refer to that documentation if you have any questions around that. But to answer the specific question, BDDs, text, and steps are all supported. So I demonstrated text a few moments ago. Let's just take a look at what steps look like. So if I go through this process using the same requirements, it's going to take a few moments to prepare the cases here. So that looks good. Let's get those back. Dum, dum, dum. All right, so they're all done. And then if we, oh, lost my filter here. Let's go to the folder. Here we go. So these are the test cases that I just generated, and you can see those have been generated in step format. And similarly, if I generate some cases, again, using the same requirements, so you can see that number's gone up from the original 30 to 54 now. And if I select BDD, and let's just create a new folder so that we don't lose track of those again. Feedback system, BDDs. Oh, did I select BDD? Yeah, okay, let's do that. So again, this is gonna suggest the test cases to me. So again, just important to note at this stage that it's a high level suggestion, and you've got the opportunity to make any changes as you may wish to provide some additional guidance to the AI as you go through the flow. And then ultimately, when you get these back, these will be in BDD format. You can also click on them and get a preview here as well. And then if we add those, then we can see that those have been generated in BDD format. So to the original question, what type of templates can be used? Test case steps and Gherkin stroke BDD format is supported in addition to test case text templates, which, just for reference, looks like this. So I can see there's a few other questions that Jal has posted in the chat. Thank you for that. What kind of Jira integration can we expect for automatic requirement fetching? Good question. We haven't. We're currently in the process of implementing a Forge version of our Jira app for Testmo. So we're kind of focusing on delivering that because Atlassian are sort of enforcing a Forge migration program that we need to adhere to somewhat. So probably once we've gotten the Forge app delivered and rolled out to all of our customers, we can start to think about how we may support additional sort of integrations with Jira using the new sort of Atlassian Forge framework. And automatic requirement fetching would certainly be something on our list of considerations there. We don't have a current sort of plan or date for when that may be implemented, however, but definitely something that's on our radar for the future. Can images, videos, or other file attachments be used in the requirements? No, not currently, but that is something that we do plan on implementing in the future. So currently, only free text requirements are supported for test case generation. Do you use your own AI model, or do you send to one of the famous models like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini? I don't want to speak too much to how we architect our product because there's the sort of IP considerations and stuff like that. But the foundation for the model that we're using is basically Gemini. Is there separate pricing for AI usage? What are the limits? There is no separate pricing for AI usage currently. AI is available to all Testmo customers by default on all Testmo plans. There are slightly different limits between those plans, as you may expect. However, those limits are quite generous, I would say, and probably not something we expect very many of our customers to hit in the immediate term. And it kind of speaks to one of the reasons as to why we are releasing AI generation as a beta feature. I mean, probably as you've seen, the feature itself is, relatively complete. There are some tweaks and adjustments that we want to make, some improvements that we're certainly aware of that we expect to implement. Nonetheless, we have implemented the release as a sort of beta program. And we're sort of gauging your response to the new feature. We're going to be closely monitoring how our customers and users are interacting with it, so that we can gauge what the sort of AI usage actually looks like and make sure that we are making necessary adjustments for customers on the various plans. However, at present, there is no separate pricing for AI usage, and you can basically treat it as if it's unlimited. If you do run up against a limit, the AI feature will be disabled. You'll see a message saying you've basically reached your limit of test case generations for the current billing period. That limit will be recycled on a monthly basis. So, in your next billing period, you can expect the usage to be restarted, recycled, as I say. And if you do have any sort of challenges with the current limit, reach out to our support team, and we'll be happy to work with you to get you back online as quickly as possible. How are we for time? Got about 10 minutes. I'm going to try and answer one or two remaining questions, and then I'll go through the rest of my slide, which will hopefully speak to some of the other common questions as well. So will there be MCP capabilities in the future? I certainly hope so. It's definitely something that we're starting to think about. As you will no doubt have seen, we've invested quite a bit of work in recent releases into developing Testmo's API further. Obviously, as part of that sort of conversation around what additional endpoints we should develop and how we can improve existing endpoints, the topic of should we just develop an MCP is naturally coming up. So I would say no immediate plans to do so, but watch this space. Will any requirements used or tests generated be used for training the underlying LLM? No. Customer data is not used to train our AI models. So that's the last question I'm going to answer right now. So let me just run through these FAQs, of which that one was top of the list. Customer data is not used to train or improve our AI models. It is only used at the point of request. It is sent to the AI model in order to generate the response. None of your data is stored or retained by Testmo at any point. Results will vary slightly between runs because AI generation is probabilistic by nature. Um, can AI usage be controlled or restricted? I covered this during the demo. AI features can be disabled globally and they can be restricted via role-based permissions. If you do decide to disable AI for some reason, any test cases that you've generated will just stay in the Testmo repository. They won't go anywhere. The AI generated test cases are, treated as first-class citizens within Testmo, so you don't need to worry about any data being deleted as a result of disabling AI, should you wish to do that. And test case generation is designed to support your end-to-end testing workflow inside of Testmo, as I've already discussed. There are a couple of known issues and future improvements, things that we're already aware of. So I was reviewing feedback ahead of this webinar. One of the issues that's been reported to us is required fields. So if you have required fields on your Testmo templates and you haven't supplied a default for those required fields, then you'll get an error at the point of trying to add those test cases to your Testmo repository. So this is kind of expected behavior. If you've got a required field without a default on your template and you don't supply a value for that field, then Testmo doesn't allow you to add the test cases. However, the error message that is provided isn't fantastically helpful. So we're definitely going to improve that. And we will try to improve the overall behavior so that we surface that information to users earlier in the AI test case generation workflow going forward, probably giving you the ability to supply inputs for those fields, for those required fields, if you have them on the templates that you're using. So that's something we're aware of and we will address. And in terms of the sort of traceability and the requirements integration, we're sort of making some tweaks and adjustments to that to try and improve it, splitting out requirements from issues so that they're easier to work with in the longer term. So that's something that we're working on as well. Folk generally ask about what's coming up on the roadmap during these kinds of sessions. So here's a quick preview of that. We are currently working to ship 0 downtime backups for Testmo customers. So some of you with larger instances will be aware that when we back up those instances, it can take a few minutes. Sometimes that interrupts things like test automation, executions, CI jobs, things like that. So we are seeking to minimize the amount of time it takes to back up your Testmo instances. Development for that is more or less complete, and we expect to ship that to customers in March. We're also working on improved notifications and user tagging. So features, I guess, analogous to stuff that you may see in other apps where you're able to tag colleagues in the context of a comment or a chat or something like that. So that's something that we are currently developing for Testmo. And hopefully you're all excited for, and we expect to deliver that around May. Something that is missing from my now list here is the Forge work that I mentioned when we were talking about Jira. So hopefully we will be releasing a Forge version of our Testmo for Jira app that is currently planned for April. Once those things are done, well, we're kind of starting to pick up the CLI automation linking work in the next sprint or so. So some of you may have seen in our Testmo documentation, we've got a new coming soon area. We have proof of concept documentation for what this looks like. Some of you have responded to a survey around whether this functionality sort of meets your needs in terms of automatically linking automated test cases to manual test cases in Testmo. The answer to that question was a resounding yes. So thank you very much for that to everybody who responded to the survey. Watch out for this feature coming soon. We're also working to round out the automation launching feature for Testmo with Jenkins support as well. Currently, we support GitHub and GitLab. Jenkins is obviously still a very popular CI server used for many of you out there in the field, and we want to provide support for that as well. So that's something we'll be picking up next. Coming later, improved search and filtering for Testmo. Quality of life improvements around how you're working with all of your things in Testmo generally, and further AI-related test management workflow enhancements to be determined. So during the course of the webinar, we have been asking, where would AI save you more time? Deciding what to test or keeping tests accurate and up to date. Do we have results for this, Joe? The pop-up has disappeared, so I'm assuming that Zhao is working some technical magic in the background, is gonna be able to supply me with the results of that survey somewhere, somehow. While he's doing that, just to mention that the recording for this webinar will be made available on our Testmo, on our YouTube channel, Testmo app. Zhao has supplied me with the response to that question. I'm not sure whether you can see it on your screen or not because it's a Zoom window, and I suspect that probably doesn't get displayed. But the response to the question, the responses to the question, where would AI save you more time? 66 out of 180 of you said deciding what to test, and 114 out of 180 of you responded keeping tests accurate and up to date would save you more time. That's very interesting to me in terms of what we work on in the future for sort of AI related features. Just to provide you with some context for kind of how I'm thinking about that. So test case generation obviously, supports the creation, the design of your tests that you're going to work with. But then, in terms of our Testmo AI roadmap, I saw that as sort of feeding into a test maintenance cycle where, you obviously need to keep those test cases up to date in respect of feature changes and, all of the other things that may affect what those test cases actually look like. So the poll results kind of support my assertion that this is probably the next thing that we may wish to work on in terms of our Testmo AI roadmap. However, it is very much subject to change. This is just a preliminary view of what that may look like. So other things that we have sort of on the radar to develop for you all to support your test case management processes, things like test prioritization, helping you to determine what tests to include in runs and how to optimize your coverage based on data associated with the test cases that you've created elsewhere. Yeah, test selection and test automation support, also things that we're thinking about for the roadmap in the future as well. But thank you very much to everybody that responded to that poll. We are basically at time. I've already covered this slide. Again, if you haven't got test case generation in your instance yet, rest assured you will have it over the next week or so. We're shipping it to customers as soon as we feel we're able to, and I expect it will be available for everybody by the 8th of March. Thank you everybody for attending. I'm going to call it a wrap. Appreciate all of your questions and your support with this webinar. Please check out the recording on our YouTube channel and add a like or a comment so we can see you all there. Thanks everybody.